Highlighting the best of Cyprus and the inspiring commitment to art and culture, Culturescope shines a spotlight on the sheer diversity of the island, its previously hidden gems, and the people who continue to make a positive contribution to Cyprus, both locally and abroad. Hello, I'm Paul Lambis and welcome to the third episode of Season 2 of Culturescope, featured on Cyprus Mail's interactive web portal Good Living. Our location for this episode is Euphoria Artland, a spectacular and unique project nestled in the Limassol countryside. Created by Anthos Myrianthos, this one-of-a-kind project offers guests the opportunity to become one with nature and escape into a world of fantasy. Anthos, every person who walks through your door always takes a while to orientate themselves, feeling as though they have entered a fairy tale setting. What was the inspiration behind this unique project for Cypriot standards?
Νομίζω ότι η φύση είναι η μεγαλύτερη έμπνευση που μπορεί να δώσει στον άνθρωπο όλα τα στοιχεία που χρειαζόμουν για να δημιουργήσω. Ήταν ένα στοιχείο αρκετά σημαντικό γιατί από μικρός παρατηρούσα τη φύση. Τα σχήματα που έπαιρναν, τις φόρμες που έπαιρναν, είτε φυτά, είτε ήταν μανιτάρια, είτε ήταν φωλιές των πουλιών. Και αργότερα μέσα από τα ταξίδια μου σε διάφορες χώρες, ο άνθρωπος έδωσε μου την έμπνευση το να μπορώ να δημιουργήσω με τα φυσικά υλικά.
Were you satisfied with the project's resonance?
Δεν περίμενα καταρχήν καμία αντίδραση γιατί δεν το είχα κάνει για τον κόσμο. Το είχα κάνει για μένα προσωπικά. Δηλαδή έκανα κάτι το οποίο το ευχαριστιόμουν και μάλιστα ευχαριστιόμουν τη διαδικασία. Το να χρησιμοποιήσω υλικά τα οποία κάποιοι άλλοι άνθρωποι τα έριχναν ή να μην τους ήταν χρήσιμα. Γι' αυτό μάζευα κεραμικά τα οποία θα ήταν σε κάποιες χωματερές. Αντιλαμβανόμενος ότι θα μολύνεται το περιβάλλον για αρκετά χιλιάδες χρόνια μέχρι η γη να μπορέσει να τα διαλύσει, λέω γιατί να μην γίνουν έργα τέχνης. Τώρα ο κόσμος πώς ανταποκρίθηκε ήταν κάτι εξωφρενικό για μένα. Γιατί ακριβώς είχα έρθει στην περιοχή κοντά στη φύση να την απολαύσω και κάπου ξαφνικά άρχισαν να έρχονται κατά χιλιάδες ο κόσμος. Άρα ήταν ένα τεράστιο σοκ, θα έλεγα, για την δική μου ψυχοσύνθεση. Το κάπου ξαφνικά ενώ απομακρύνεσαι να έρχεται ο κόσμος να σε βρίσκει κατά χιλιάδες.
Euphoria Artland is a project that has attracted the interest of people from all over the world. What is the philosophy of the space you have created?
Ο κόσμος το αγάπησε, ο κόσμος έχει δώσει την απαιτούμενη προσοχή ίσως που θα χρειαζόταν για να μπορεί ένας τουρίστας ή κάποιος εκτός της Κύπρου ή ακόμα και εντός της Κύπρου να απολαύσει κάτι εντελώς διαφορετικό. Ήθελα να μεταδώσω ιδιαίτερα στις νέες γενιές ότι δεν έχει σημασία το χρώμα του δέρματος που έχουμε, ούτε το τι πιστεύουμε σε θρησκεία, ούτε αν είμαι ψηλός, ούτε αν είμαι κοντός, Δηλαδή, ήθελα να ενώσω τους ανθρώπους, τις κουλτούρες, τον πολιτισμό, να μην υπάρχει ούτε bullying, ούτε ρατσισμός, κάτι που αντίθετα με στενοχωρεί όταν το δω. Είμαι εκπαιδευτικός αυτή τη στιγμή, αρχιτέκτονας εσωτερικού χώρου, άρα στη διακοσμητική. Διδάσκω και ξέρω το τι συμβαίνει στις νέες γενιές και τυχαίνει στην τάξη μου να έχω αρκετά παιδιά από διάφορες χώρες. Και λατρεύω τούτον το συναίσθημα, η συνύπαρξη διαφόρων παιδιών που μπορούμε μαζί να κάνουμε όμορφες ομάδες και να δημιουργήσουμε. Είναι 3 σπιτάκια και θα έλεγα είναι το 1/5 του συνολικού project που θα δημιουργηθεί. Το βασικό στοιχείο είναι να ενσωματώνεται στη φύση. Το πρώτο σπιτάκι θεματολογικά έχει να κάνει με την Αφρική, ιδιαίτερα με την Αιθιοπία. Ήθελα να χρησιμοποιήσω τα υλικά που στη συγκεκριμένη χώρα χρησιμοποιούν. Το ότι ακόμα και η μπογιά είναι που φυσικά χρώματα, αλλά τα δημιουργήσαν και από τη φύση, από πέτρες, από κοχύλια και το καθεξής. Τα σχέδια που χρησιμοποιούσαν τα παιδιά με τις μητέρες τους έξω στα σπίτια ή στα σχολεία για να τα ομορφήσουν. Στοιχεία όπως το μέταλλο, το ξύλο, το κάθε τι έχει χρησιμοποιηθεί στο χώρο που θα μπορούσε να ήταν καταλληλότερο. Το δεύτερο σπιτάκι εμπνεύστηκα καταρχήν από ένα μανιτάρι, το οποίο έχει κίτρινο χρώμα και υπάρχουν κάποια ανοίγματα. Δημιούργησα ρίζες, λες και είναι ένα φυτό που αναρριχείται στο κτίριο και έντονα χρώματα ώστε να προσδίδουν τη συγκεκριμένη κουλτούρα του Μεξικού και της Κολομβίας. Συνήθως συνδυάζω 2 χώρες. Υπάρχουν στοιχεία περισσότερων από Ινδία. Τα επίπλα τα συγκεκριμένα έχουν φτιαχτεί από καλλιτέχνες της Ινδίας. Χρησιμοποίησα σαν χρώμα το τουρκουάζ, ταυτόχρονα το παγόνι, σαν πουλί, το οποίο είναι συμβολικά αντιπροσωπεύει την Ινδία. Και γυναίκες σε διάφορα σχέδια τα οποία ναι, έχουν να κάνουν με την ομορφιά, έχουν να κάνουν με το παγόνι. Έχει στοιχεία και από το Μαρόκο, ιδιαίτερα ο χώρος του μπάνιου. Έχουν δουλέψει αρκετοί εθελοντές, περίπου 500 άτομα, για 3,5 χρόνια για να τα φτιάξουμε κατά περιόδους. Εγώ ίδιος δούλευα μέρα νύχτα, είτε είχε νερά, είτε ήλιον, είτε ήταν βράδυ, αλλά ακριβώς ήθελα να βιώσω την εμπειρία της συγκεκριμένη. Αλλά για μένα το να δημιουργώ είναι οξυγόνος, είναι η τροφή. Θα έλεγα η ζωή είναι ένας καθρέφτης που ό,τι του δείξεις θα υπάρχει αντανάκλαση προς εσένα. Άρα βλέποντας το τι έχω δημιουργήσει μου το ανταπέδωσε εις διπλούν και ακόμη περισσότερο. Όταν εκτιμάς αυτόν που έχεις και αγαπάς, θα σου δώσει αγάπη και εκτίμηση.
Her Excellency Miss Madhumita Hazarika Bhagat assumed charge as the High Commissioner of India in Cyprus in 2019. Actively involved in promoting bilateral relations between India and Cyprus, the High Commissioner is also a keen supporter of a united Cyprus, promoting human rights and fundamental freedoms. Your Excellency, Cyprus and India have traditionally enjoyed exceptional relations premised on deep friendship, mutual respect and close cooperation, particularly in the context of international organizations. When did the diplomatic ties between Cyprus and India first come into effect?
Our diplomatic relations got established on 10th of February 1962. But even before that, there had been a lot of exchanges between the leaders of both the countries. And after that also, there have been a lot of visits between both the countries. Many people have come. And today, as you can see, that there are more than 7,000 Indians who are there in Cyprus. So I think our relations over the period of time have really got enhanced, and we have got kind of, integrated in the Cyprus community also. And I think all in all, it has been a lovely time for both the countries. I can say that the economic relationship has been established on the foundation of a joint commercial technical economic commission, which has been signed between both the countries. And then, of course, we have relations with and ties with the Cyprus Chamber of Commerce. We have the India-Cyprus Business Council, which has been having a lot of meetings where we are exploring how to enhance bilateral ties in tourism, in MSMEs, that is micro, small and medium enterprises, and in shipping, as you already know, which already exists here. So I think all in all, we have been trying to enhance bilateral trade. There's a lot of potential. So we think that it is an important foundation between both the countries, and we are having a lot of events to enhance it.
In 2019, you assumed charge as High Commissioner of India in Cyprus. What are some of the initiatives you have taken that have helped forge stronger ties and further enhance the cooperation between the two countries?
When I came in here, and I was surprised by the fact that many people already knew a lot about India, and also to see that there is a lot of Indian restaurants which are promoting Indian cuisine here in Cyprus. And so it was not something that one had to begin, kind of propagating, so to say, about Indian culture. But what I think is important is this, that through various little things, through various events, we have been able to let the people know what is in India that is unique in terms of what festivals we celebrate. I remember that when the restrictions were partially lifted, then we were celebrating the finale of the 150th anniversary of Mahatma Gandhi. For that, we had a photo exhibition in the Foreign Ministry, which was opened again by your Foreign Minister. We had tree planting events. So that was all signifying the ideals of Mahatma Gandhi, which I'm very happy to note is something that the Cypriots value a lot. After so many years, I think Mahatma Gandhi still remains the single most relevant icon in the whole world, and people all over the world look up to him because of his ideals of non-violence and peace. And I think he has been instrumental. We call him the father of the nation because he is the one who turned the movement for independence into a mass movement, and also through various ways which he evolved from his own personal experiences. So I think this whole concept, or rather I would say philosophy of non-violence that was espoused by Mahatma Gandhi, is something that is unique. India has always stood for unification of Cyprus, and I think wherever the Cypriot government or establishment has spoken about bi-communal, bi-zonal federation, so we have always stood for that. And today, as members of the United Nations Security Council also, we have actively voted for it, we have actively promoted it, and I think that is something we stand for Cyprus as friends. The reunification of Cyprus is something that will be good for the whole world. It will be an example for the whole world to see that how Cyprus stands for peace, and also how Cyprus has been laboring for so many years for a solution. I think many filmmakers in Bollywood are not in a particular way aware of the incentives that the Cypriot government is giving in this area. So we hope to even bring in a lot of Bollywood producers, Bollywood artists and stars who can come in and who can publicize about Cyprus, because Cyprus has this beautiful sites where about them. I think the Mediterranean is one of the best in Cyprus, and I think there's a lot of opportunity and potential here. The north of India is again represented by 4 major states, so to say, by Kashmir, by Punjab, by Rajasthan, and by Uttar Pradesh. So these are 4 different regions of north of India, but each one of them has a different language. When you come to the south of India, then there are predominantly 4 regions in south of India, which we call them actually states. I belong from a state called Assam, and that is where the tea comes from. We produce the highest production of tea, and that is of course consumed a lot domestically also, and we export also a lot. Then you move into central India, where you have the state of Madhya Pradesh, and there also predominantly, because it's center of India, it also kind of has the influences, a little bit of the north and a little bit of the east and the west. Again, There is a difference in the way they dress and the way they eat, the music, the dance. Each state has its own unique folk dances and music.
You began your diplomatic career in the Embassy of India in Russia. Since then, you have held key positions in countries such as Kazakhstan, Sweden, Turkey, and now in Cyprus. How challenging was it to travel extensively from one country to the next and balance a personal life with the family?
I came into the Indian Foreign Service after I had 2 small children. So, when people say that everything becomes a little bit more difficult to manage with family and with profession, in my case, I don't think so. Because I was supported very much by my husband. I think he has been instrumental in where I am today and how I got into the diplomatic service. And my children have always been a major support for me. I follow the principle of a work-life balance, and therefore I believe that work should not be taken home and home should not be taken to office. It's very, very reassuring in a certain way to see that there's so much of an Indian influence also in many of the countries that I have been. And also, how each country is able to embrace our culture. So I felt at home in almost all the countries that I have served in. So I would say that the world is my home, but of course India is in my heart as always.
Georgia Kombou's artistic flair and love of music became even more apparent when she laid her hands on the bouzouki for the first time. Today, Georgia is a bouzouki virtuoso and a rightful successor in the line of eminent bouzouki players with a career spanning almost 4 decades.
Μεγάλο ρόλο σε όλα τα μουσικά όργανα, όχι κατά αποκλειστικότητα στο μπουζούκι, είναι η μουσικότητα. Δηλαδή το συναίσθημα που βγάζεις την ώρα που παίζεις πάνω στη σκηνή. Για μένα αυτό μέτρα.
Georgia, at the age of 9, you made a decision to learn how to play the bouzouki. How was that desire born?
Στην ηλικία των 9 χρονών έφερε στο σπίτι ο παπάς με ένα μπουζούκι. Εγώ στο πίσω μέρος του μυαλού μου είχα την εικόνα ότι το μπουζούκι το έπαιζαν μόνο άντρες. Αρχίσα μετά μαθήματα στο Ελληνικό Οδείο και κατόπιν στο δάσκαλο μπουζουκιού, που θεωρείται τότε ένας μεγάλος δάσκαλος, ο Κώστας Σοφιανός. Ξεκινήσαμε σαν ντουέτ με την αδερφή μου, παίζει κιθάρα η αδερφή μου και εγώ μπουζούκι. Και όταν ο πατέρας μας έπαιρνε σε διάφορους χώρους να παίξουμε, έβλεπα τον κόσμο που με έβλεπε με άλλο διαφορετικό μάτι. Πριν πολλά χρόνια δεν υπήρχαν καθόλου κοπέλες που παίζαν μπουζούκι. Τώρα στις μέρες μας μπορούμε, ειδικά στην Ελλάδα, υπάρχουν πάρα πολλές κοπέλες που ασχολούνται με αυτόν τον όργανο. Στην Κύπρο δεν ακούσα καμιά που να είναι δεξιοτέχνη στο μπουζούκι και νιώθα άβολα. Όμως στην πορεία, με τη σκληρή δουλειά, απέδειξα ότι μπορώ να φτάσω στο επίπεδο των ανδρών που παίζαν μπουζούκι.
Who has been the greatest inspiration in your professional career?
Καταρχήν, ο Θανάσης ο Πολυκανδριώτης μου έδωσε πάρα πολλές ευκαιρίες. Μου έφερε την αναγνώριση που έχω αυτή τη στιγμή στην Κύπρο. Ήμουν πάρα πολύ παθιασμένη με τον Νταλάρα. Δεν έχανα συναυλία τον Νταλάρα στην Κύπρο. Ποτέ μου. Δεν κατάφερα μέχρι τώρα να τον γνωρίσω από κοντά. Είναι επιθυμία μου. Όμως γνώρισα τον Νικολόπουλο, τον Χρήστο Νικολόπουλο, όταν είχε έρθει συναυλία εδώ στην Κύπρο. Πιστεύω τότε, μόλις άρχιζα, ο Νταλάρας ήταν το ίνταλμα μου. Όταν πήρα τα βραβεία μου στα Global Music Awards στη σύνθεση και όταν τραγούδι δικό μου είχε μπει σαν soundtrack στην ταινία The Trip to Greece, ένιωσα ότι έβγαλα το όνομα της χώρας μου έξω και το τίμησα. Ένιωθα περήφανα. Αυτό είναι καταξίωση και εκτίμηση της δουλειάς σου στο εξωτερικό. Ένιωθα περήφανη για τον τόπο μου. Αγαπώ την Κύπρο, αγαπώ την πόλη μου, τη Λεμεσό, είναι ο έρωτας μου και η πόλη μου με τίμησε πάρα πολλές φορές. Νιώθω ευγνώμων. Αυτό ήταν μια πρόταση από τη δισκογραφική μου εταιρεία στην Αθήνα. Ήθελα να παρουσιάσω μια δουλειά του Μίκη Θεοδωράκη με τον δικό μου τρόπο. Και σκέφτηκα να γυρίσω αυτόν το βίντεο κλιπ με το Ζορπά. Όλοι αυτοί ήταν φίλοι μου. Το βίντεο, οφείλω να ομολογήσω ότι είχε την άδεια από τον ίδιο τον Μίκη Θεοδωράκη για να κυκλοφορήσει. Ήταν έναν όνειρο ζωής το βίντεο κλιπ. 27 του Απρίλη ήταν το γύρισμα, το 2019. Η μέρα της γιορτής του προστάτη Αγίου μου, του Αγίου Φανουρίου. Θυμάμαι ότι όταν ο Έλμος μου είχε μπει να περπατήσω στη θάλασσα και να βάλω το μαντίλι στα μαγιά μου, του λέω δεν θέλω να το φορήσω, έχω καρκίνο και θα το φορήσω. Εκείνη τη μέρα όμως υπήρχαν οι πόνοι στο πόδι μου, φρικτοί πόνοι, όμως δεν καταλάβαινες τίποτε. Το χαμόγελό μου τα επισκιάζαν όλα. Αυτό που περνώ, η περιπέτεια με την υγεία μου, που αυτή η δοκιμασία με έκαμε να δω τα πράγματα πολύ διαφορετικά. Εντάξει, πάντα ήμουν όρημη, αλλά με ορίμασε ακόμα περισσότερο. Με έμαθε να ζω την κάθε στιγμή, λες και είναι τελευταία, να εκτιμώ τους παράδεισους που προσφέρει η ζωή και να δυναμώσει ακόμα περισσότερο την εμπιστοσύνη που έχω στο Θεό.
How did your music play a vital role as an emotional outlet?
Η μουσική για μένα ήταν η σανίδα σωτηρίας μου. Τελειώνα από τις χημειοθεραπείες, ερχόμουν σπίτι και πιάνα τον μπουζούκι μου και μόλις τελείωσα τις χημειοθεραπείες είχα γράψει έναν τραγούδι, τον νίκησα, το οποίο ερμήνευσε η Παμπίνα Κοντέα και τους στίχους έχει γράψει ο Άθος Χατζημαθαίου και κυκλοφόρησε μετά που τελείωσε τις χημειοθεραπείες. Μπορώ να πω ότι όταν διαγνώστηκα, δεν ξέρω, σαν θεία παρέμβαση, πήρα πάρα πολύ δύναμη. Έβλεπα τους γύρω μου να κλαίνε, όμως εγώ δεν ξέρω, παίρνα πάρα πολύ δύναμη από τον Θεό. Και ακόμα, ο Θεός είναι η δύναμη μου. Ήδη εδώ και αρκετά χρόνια διδάσκω και σε παιδιά και σε ενήλικες. Είναι δύσκολο το έργο μου γιατί το να μεταδώσεις αυτά που ξέρεις είναι δύσκολο. Όπως είναι και δύσκολο να φτάσει ο μαθητής σε έναν επίπεδο. Πρέπει να υπάρχει πειθαρχία, αγάπη προς αυτόν το όργανο, όχι επειδή σου είπε κάποιος ή ο γονιός σου πήγαινε να μάθεις, πρέπει να πας. Πρέπει εσύ ο ίδιος να το αγαπάς. Θέλει ατέλειωτες ώρες εξάσκηση για να μπορέσεις να φτάσεις σε έναν επίπεδο. Και με χαροποιεί ιδιαίτερα, γιατί αυτή τη στιγμή έχω και κοπέλες που διδάσκω. Θέλω απλά να είμαι ήρεμη και να απολαμβάνω τα μικρά και σημαντικά στη ζωή. Τίποτε άλλο, πολύ.
Greek pop singer-songwriter Evangelia pays tribute to her Greek roots through her innovative music, combining strong pop influences and traditional Greek sounds. Having grown up both on the island of Crete in Greece and in New Jersey in the United States, Evangelia is creating a music legacy of her own. Evangelia, you've built up a reputation as one of the most exciting newcomers on the music scene. What made you pursue your lifelong dream of being an artist?
Always just dreamed about it, but always also knew it was a crazy idea. My mom is Italian American and my father is from Greece, from Crete. My dad was like, Evangelia, you need to have a path that leads to a monthly salary and a comfortable life and no questions, you know, do music, but it's a hobby. So I was a full-time teacher for 3 years and teaching by day and by night. I was running around New York City, going to shows, performing, writing songs, figuring things out. And I realized at a certain point that I really wanted to give it a chance. I got called into the principal's office and found out that there were massive budget cuts in my school district. And so all the non-tenured teachers in my district lost their jobs, myself included. So I was laid off. So I didn't have to quit. I was given an opportunity to make a decision for myself. And at that point, I had experienced being a musician at the same time as going to be a teacher, and I had a long talk with my dad. And he was like, all right, Evangelia, do it.
Fotia follows your debut track Bame Bame, which was released last year, and it has been streamed by millions across the globe. What was the inspiration behind your unique and addictive blend of music, and what is the core message to the song?
In the process of figuring everything out, I met Jay Stolar, who's the love of my life and my life partner, and we now make all my music together. I loved the music I was making, and it holds a special place in my heart and got me to where I am today, but I wasn't truly being authentic to who I am and to my full experience. So once we started going into the studio, and I made a whole Google Doc with links to Zebetika, Kritika, all sorts of Greek music and separate instruments, and I would play it for these American producers who've never heard this music before, to show them and tell them about my culture and hear these new sounds and rhythms that they've never heard before. And then we wrote inspired by that and created something inspired by that. We were able to start creating music that hasn't really been made before in that way and in that context. And I, for the first time, felt so fulfilled, like, this is me. And once I started really creating music that was authentic to me in this way, is when everything changed, and I signed my record deal and everything like that. Like, I was like, wow, all this time I just had to be myself, which is a beautiful thing to conclude. And I'm really looking forward to keep exploring where the sound takes me. The best feeling for me and the most magical thing is seeing other people listening to my song. It's just the coolest thing. When people connected with the music video, because I shot it in Yaya's farmhouse, the party I threw in the video, those are real people, they're from Paliófora, it's really special. And I think also for me as a first song debut, saying Pame Pame, let's go, it's like, let's go guys, we're going on a journey, there's more coming. Fotia also marks a special time for me because I had just signed my record deal based on music that fully represents me. And to me, it also represents following my passion and just, I'm gonna lose control and I'm gonna go into this chaos and figure out what's gonna happen. And Fotia me Stamatis, it's a romantic partner, but it's also your dreams and like what you want to actually do. So it kind of means both of those things for me. And the video, visually, I wanted to do something elevated and very high art in a sense, and also pay my respects to ancient Greek art and architecture and some of the poses that can be very statuesque. And when the bouzouki came in, I wanted to dance Zebetiko and really let go. And I was telling the director, I was like, Zebetiko is a passionate, like, lonely dance, but the people support you in whatever it is that you're feeling.
Is there a personal motto that motivates you to get up in the morning?
I tell everybody, even that works on my project, down from the label to the musicians, I tell them what myriad is. As you know, and probably everybody watching knows, but it means to do something with so much love and passion and soul that you leave a part of yourself in your work. And that I want people, when they listen to the music or see the videos, to feel that myriad was put into it.
Andreas Dometakis arrived in London in the early 1960s in search of a better future. Years later, after setting up home in Covent Garden and mastering the shirt-making trade, he became respected and internationally renowned within the entertainment industry for his exceptional artistry. From opulent theatrical productions to Oscar-winning films, Andreas's iconic shirts are certainly a cut above the rest. Andreas, you were born in Limassol and left Cyprus for the United Kingdom in the early 1960s. What prompted you to leave Cyprus in search of a better life?
Όταν ήρθα ήταν Οκτώβριος του 1960 και άρχισα δουλειά σε έναν εργοστάσιο. Μετά πήγα και σε ένα κολέγιο για να μάθω περαιτέρω την τεχνική που χρησιμοποιείται στην Αγγλία, στο Λονδίνο. Όταν έδειξα στον διδάσκαλο εκεί πώς κόβαμε τα πουκάμισα στη Κύπρο, έμεινε έκπληκτος γιατί εδώ φτιάχνανε πολύ φαρδιά. Ενώ στη Limassol που έμαθα να φτιάχνω ήταν πιο κομψά. Και μου είπε δεν έχεις τίποτα να μάθεις άλλο. Και έτσι έφυγα. Το 1963 ιδρύθηκε μια εκκλησία στο νότιο Λονδίνο. Εκεί γνωρίστηκα τη γυναίκα μου γιατί είχαμε σύλλογο νεολαίας. Μέχρι το 1967 εργαζόμουν στο εργοστάσιο ως κόπτης και συνεργάστηκα μαζί με τον σχεδιαστή που είχε η εταιρεία αυτή. Το 1968 παντρευθήκαμε, η γυναίκα μου είναι το στήριγμα μου.
What was the turning point in your career which essentially opened the door to the stylish entertainment industry?
Γνώρισα και έναν άλλο σχεδιαστή, ο οποίος ήταν πολύ κοντά στο Πικαντήλι. Εκεί υπήρχε ένα μικρό εργαστήριο ράπτης, ο οποίος με σύστησε σε κάποιον από το BBC. Και η πρώτη δουλειά που είχα κάνει ήταν το black and white minstrels. Και τα πουκάμισα που τους έφτιαξα ήταν με sequins. Και ενθουσιαστήκα. Και από εκείνο το έργο που είχα φτιάξει συνεχίστηκε για χρόνια πολλά. Η πρώτη μεγάλη εργασία που έχω κάνει ήταν για το Phantom of the Opera. Από την ημέρα που ξεκίνησε μέχρι τώρα τελευταίως, εγώ τους τα φτιάχνω σε όλον τον κόσμο. Επίσης, έχω φτιάξει για το Les Miserables. Όλα τα κεντρικά θέατρα του Λονδίνου, στο West End, είναι όλα δικά μου. Την ίδια εποχή έφτιαχνα και για τον James Bond. Ήταν ο Sean Connery και μάλιστα έχω και μια σκηνή μαζί του. Και για τον Doctor Who είχα φτιάξει τα πουκάμισα του Harrison Ford. Είναι το ύφασμα ειδικό χρώμα, 2 τσέπες πάνω και 2 κάτω με πλέτα στη μέση και μία πλέτα μεγάλη έρχεται από πάνω μέχρι κάτω. Του Brad Pitt είχαμε φτιάξει 78, τα οποία του άρεσαν πάρα πολύ. Μας έχει στείλει φωτογραφία υπογραμμένη, αφιερωμένη σε μένα και στην Αντρούλα. Tom Cruise του είχαμε φτιάξει τα πουκάμισα για το Mission Impossible 1.
Είχαμε φτιάξει για το Far Side of the World, τα οποία ήταν από λινό, αττικ, ταμπέλες και μόνο μία γυναίκα υπήρχε στην Αγγλία, μεγάλη ηλικιωμένη γυναίκα που έφτιαχνε τα κουμπιά στο χέρι, με σμιλί.
Είχα φτιάξει για το Madame Bespoke, για τα κύρινα εκεί. Το κατάστημα που είχαμε ήταν πολύ κοντά στο μέρος που γυριζόταν η ταινία. Πήγαινα κι εγώ να πάρω το αμάξι μου από εκεί που είχα παρκάρει και βλέπω τις σχεδιάστριες εκεί και μου φωνάζανε, έλα, πρέπει να δεις να σε συστήσουμε στον Colin Firth. Και όταν συνάντησα τον Colin, ήταν πολύ ωραία. Είχα φτιάξει τα πουκάμισα για Mr. Selfridge, The Crown. Έχω φτιάξει πριν λίγες μέρες για ένα θεατρικό έργο, Joseph, το οποίο είναι στο London Palladium.
Όταν βλέπουμε έργα ή κάτι στην τηλεόραση, πάντα λέμε, αυτά είναι δικά μας, αυτά εμείς τα φτιάξαμε, εκείνον εμείς τα φτιάξαμε. Ξεχωρίζει η δουλειά του Ανδρέα.
What is the legacy you would like to leave behind?
Ότι έχω μια πάρα πολύ καλή οικογένεια. Χαίρομαι πάρα πολύ για τα 2 μου παιδιά, τα οποία είναι πάρα πολύ καλά. Και έχουμε και 2 εγγονάκια, τα οποία αγαπούμε πάρα πολύ.
Linda Papadopoulos is one of the UK's most recognisable and respected psychologists. Linda explores the many sides of human psychology, from anxiety, cyberbullying, body confidence and relationships to attitudes in the workplace and everything in between. Dr. Linda, what led you to begin a career in psychology?
I never started out wanting to be a psychologist. I did my first degree in Canada, and as part of the degree you needed to take back then a humanities course, and I chose psychology. I thought I wanted to be a writer. I loved writing, I loved stories, and I took this intro first year psychology course, and I just had the most amazing lecture and became completely kind of besotted with this topic. And I realized the reason that I thought I wanted to be a writer is because I was actually interested in human stories and the human experience. And here was a discipline that allowed you not only to kind of delve into those human stories, but to use science to understand how those stories came about. So I changed my major within a few sort of months, couple months of starting the course, and yeah, I never looked back. I did my first degree, and I was going to do my clinical training and PhD. Actually, I had a place to go and do it in sort of sunny California, and at the time, my boyfriend, who is my husband now, was like, "No, I'm in England, you love London, come and do it in the UK." And I swear, I came over and it rained nonstop for 2 weeks. So like, I was like, okay, if this doesn't prove how committed I am, nothing will. But no, it worked out well. So I do think sometimes kind of circumstances or even sort of countries choose you. I've been in the UK ever since, and it's kind of, I've loved my time here, but it wasn't something that was kind of on my sort of plan, as it were. That's a brilliant question. I think to some extent, first of all, we need to begin to recognize what stress, what anxiety looks like. And sometimes it looks like agitation. Sometimes it feels like being overwhelmed or being tired. Sometimes, it feels like being disengaged. So I think it's about learning to take your own emotional temperature, as it were. And what I often say to people is, look at the basics, right? How are you eating? How are you sleeping? How are you moving? That'll often give you a good indication. We know when our sleep is disturbed, it has a profound impact on our mental health, on our mood, on our way that we process anxiety. If we're seeing sort of changes in eating, if we started really overeating or undereating, we know that, again, not just with the behavioral side of it, with our microbiome, right? That can have a huge impact, again, on how we process emotions. And if we're very lethargic, if we're not getting any exercise, moving around, that has an impact as well. So I think the first thing is to get the basics right. Make sure you take your emotional temperature. And if you do find that things just don't feel right, then it's really critical that we have, I guess, a sense of entitlement over speaking about our feelings. I've been doing this job for so long, kind of speaking sort of to the public about it. One of the things I've always harped on about is kind of just that, sense of if you and I were speaking and, and you said, "Linda, what's wrong with your arm?" I'd say, "Oh, I've got a broken arm," and you'd see it and we'd make space for that. You wouldn't ask me to sign anything or to wave because you'd know my arm was broken. But because so many of the mental health issues we have aren't seen, it's a difficult thing to have a conversation about. So I think the only way we begin is by kind of normalizing it, understanding that sometimes we have bad days, and that's cool, that's fine. And also normalizing the idea that we're social beings, we're not meant to do this on our own. So whether it's a partner, a family member, a friend, or a good doctor, a GP, a therapist, someone that can help you, if you're feeling like this over an extended period of time, please, by all means, reach out. That's the way that this gets better. The sooner you reach out, the better. I think one of the fundamental things that you need to get your head around is taking care of your future self. When we want behavioral change, usually the benefits are far away and the costs are immediate, right? So I want to eat healthier. Well, if I forego the piece of cake now, well, that's a cost to me now. And the benefit is maybe in a month or so, I'll feel better or look better, but the cost is immediate, right? If I want to go to the gym, the cost, the feeling tired is immediate. And the benefit, well, it'll take ages before I see the muscle definition. And that's true of everything. I want to stop smoking. Cost is immediate. Benefits down the line. Okay, so I get a couple extra years at the end of my life. So the trick, in terms of a mental hack, it's about sort of turning those around, right? So how can you bring benefits into the forefront of your mind, right? And kind of push those costs away. And part of it is about engaging with your future self, right? So, there's this idea that if you can find your why, you can find your how. So what is your why? Do I want to be healthier so I can see my kids grow up, so I can fit into that dress, so I can, not hyperventilate because of all the smoking when I go up the stairs? What is my why? Once you have that, then the how becomes easier, and you can do several things to ensure that you're doing that. For example, take away barriers to making the right choices. If I want to eat healthier, having a fridge full of junk is not going to help. Stop buying it. If it's not in the house, it's really simple. It's just easier not to have it. If I want to work out, and sure, am I a morning person? Great. I'm going to book as soon as I wake up, straight out the door, and I'm going to go and do that. Am I an evening person? I'll do it there. I'm not going to do it at a time where it feels particularly emotionally taxing. And thirdly, I'm going to validate myself. And here's the really important one. When you want to achieve behavioral change, so many times we focus on outcome. Don't do that. We need to focus on action, right? So again, to use the weight example, if I'm standing on the scales, sometimes I'll go up, sometimes I'll go down, but, and that will really affect my self-esteem, my confidence, my belief in what I'm doing. I'm not going to validate myself for every time the scales move. I'm going to validate myself instead for every time I've chosen sort of the healthy sort of fish and salad over the burger. I'm going to validate myself every time I've gone to the gym. I'm going to focus on action versus outcome, because if you focus on action enough, the outcome's inevitable. If there's a relationship there, there's a mutual goal. I think you need to redefine what the mutual goal is. So in this case, if it's a working relationship, then presumably the mutual goal is to the benefit of some sort of project or some sort of outcome. I think there's something important about kind of having enough communication to be able to sort of say, okay, we both want to make sure that we meet our target this year. The only way we do this is if we're able to work together. Now, it doesn't mean we have to enjoy a holiday together, we don't have to name our kids after each other, but we need to be able to communicate to the point that it's mutually beneficial, because ultimately, it sounds like if you can't do that, there's kind of the whole, not necessarily mutually assured destruction, but certainly it's detrimental to the whole process. So again, what is your why, right? You're kind of focused too much on defining the problem rather than looking at the solution. And again, in the workplace, the solution isn't we need to be best friends. The solution is we need a viable, positive working relationship. Now, this can be fostered in a couple of ways. I'm assuming they have a line manager, and sort of that's kind of oftentimes a great way to kind of, whether it's an HR department or a manager that can help facilitate this. If they're just business partners, then perhaps it's about putting it to the test and saying, well, look, let's see if we can figure this out. And if not, perhaps we have to call it a day. But, there's something really important. I think this is true of any relationship, personal or professional, that you shouldn't walk away unless you've tried everything you can to fix it. It's much easier to walk away in doing that. So kind of framing this as a last chance to figure it out, speaking, and I think when you speak is trying to avoid emotive language, sort of, you did this, you did that. It's much more about taking responsibility. Look, when you do X, I feel Y. So maybe when you interrupt me, I feel disrespected. Maybe you're not trying to disrespect me, but that's what I feel. So in which case I can say, oh my gosh, I just get really excited when we speak, so I interrupt you because I try and add on to something. In which case you can say, okay, well, that's great to know. Maybe what we can do is function in a way that, you interrupt me right at the end and then we can build on it like that. Would that work? So automatically we're kind of on the same side rather than kind of positioning this problem between us. We're putting it in front of us, sitting next to each other and trying to figure it out. One of the first things that parents need to understand is that unlike for them, there's no online and offline for kids. So this device, which is the device that they're maybe being bullied on, is also probably the device that they're getting support from, connecting with other kids with, right? So one of the things that our research has found is that many times kids won't open up to parents about what's going on because they fear their devices are going to be taken away, they're going to be confiscated and whatnot. So what I would say is, first things first, when you first get your child online, number one, do it slowly. Number two, ensure that you are on top of it. You're aware of how, what social media platforms they're on, what they're doing. And number three, have a concrete set of rules, right? So for example, devices we know interfere with studying, they interfere with sleep, they interfere with a lot of stuff. So you can't use them while you're studying. It's, you have to give them back by 7:30, 8 o'clock at night. And during the dinner time, no one has devices around and we actually speak as a family. That's very important. The second thing is kind of understanding that their digital footprint is there forever. So what I would say to my daughter always is, if you're not happy to wear it on a t-shirt, don't put it online, because it's going to be like wearing it on with your t-shirt forever. So, get them to understand the permanence, which is a scary thing, which is something that we didn't have to grow up with. And thirdly, I think it's also having a really sort of, and not just a one-off talk, but an ongoing talk about the difference between doing what we're doing now, is just having verbal communication, feeding off of each other, sort of visual cues, and writing something online which can be misconstrued or misinterpreted and ultimately hurt somebody. So, I've heard cases where kids have felt they were bullied because they were cropped out of a picture, but you speak to the other kid and the other kid's like, oh, I didn't realize, the picture didn't fit, so it wasn't meant to do this. Or something that can be, again, construed as a joke, or if you're verbalizing it, construed very differently online. So having a real conversation about that, right? So understanding that you can end up in the position of bully inadvertently, but also if you are being bullied, and this is critical, to speak to a parent as soon as possible, to say, look, even though, you know, this is no different to you being bullied elsewhere. And, you know, and my go-to place is not going to be, that's it, no more technology forever. But it's going to be, how do we work on this to support you to get through it?
What do you do outside of work that helps you maintain a healthy, well-balanced life?
I guess the thing that keeps me balanced is my family. Super good, even though I'm an only child and I have an only child, like, you know, we're extremely close, and my cousins are a big part of my family, and my parents, and my little girl who's now 18, and Yuni and my husband. So we have a lot of fun. We have a lot of communication, a lot of connection. We check in with each other a lot. So over the dinner table every day, we'll speak about, you know, the best thing about the day. So we kind of try and keep it quite about being grateful. I think that's a big one. What can we be grateful for? And we, you know, when we work hard and we play hard, and I think that's the other thing, you know, we invest in our work, but I always have things in the diary to look forward to, you know, whether it's a coffee with a friend or going back to Cyprus to visit the family, that always helps. And in terms of the motto that I live by, and I always have, and this is something my parents would always tell me, is sort of, you know, just be nice to people because they're fighting a battle. And I've got to say, I know this isn't, you know, particularly new, but as a psychologist, you realize that genuinely, you know, everyone's fighting this internal struggle. And if we all just made a little bit more space for each other, we just had a little bit more goodwill when someone isn't smiling or isn't having a good day, to kind of allow them that space, it's amazing how that then gets sort of passed on. And that's just a thing I always try having in the back of my mind.
Stay connected and follow us on social media. If you want to be featured on Culturescope, contact our production team by visiting the website below. Until next time, stay safe and let culture transform your life.